Rules are very important in life. We go through it knowing that there are limits to what we can do. This is, of course, with respect to how others live their life as well. What's odd is that the rules somehow always applies except for when we're talking about Donald J. Trump. In an explosive release, Jack Smith submitted a court filing alleged that there's even more information to be gotten from Donald Trump's 2020 election case. Can you believe this? The 165-page filing was recently just released, which goes against the Justice Department's own rules of a 60-day quiet period before an election. And guys, before we get started, I just want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Let's get started.
We know that Special Counsel Jack Smith had filed court documents calling your actions in the aftermath of the 2020 election, quote, a private criminal effort. Can you respond to that?
He's a deranged person. I call him deranged Jack Smith. He just lost the big documents case. That was the biggest of them all. They said the documents case, and they said that was the toughest of them all. Let me tell you, we just won it, and it was won strongly and completely. And it was a total victory in Florida. And he is a person who is trying, and he works for Kamala and he works for Joe. This was a weaponization of government, and that's why it was released 30 days before the election. And it's nothing new in there, by the way, nothing new. They rigged the election. I didn't rig the election. They should have never allowed the information to come before the public. But they did that because they want to hurt you with the election. It's pure election interference to get an incompetent person like Kamala. She's grossly incompetent. She's more incompetent than Biden to get these people elected.
Now, Jack Smith, he's obviously not a fan of Donald Trump. And all of this is coming out just weeks before the election because they know that Kamala Harris is losing. We also know that this won't go to trial if Donald Trump wins. So at this point, Jack Smith's court filings, they're merely a ploy to leave it to the public to decide what Donald Trump did back then, which again doesn't seem to be nonpartisan. In fact, it looks incredibly biased. And guys, this is the clear double standard that our government works with, because the Democrats can do the exact same thing that they pin on Trump, and yet they act as if they're better. They act as if Donald Trump is the only guy who has questioned the result of an election. This was explained by a former official of the Trump administration, Peter Navarro.
This is simply election interference. What's interesting about this as an issue now, I did a little polling. This is interesting. Crosstabs from a Rasmussen poll show that MSNBC viewers see the two top issues as democracy threats at 46% and abortion at 28%. For Fox, it's immigration at 49%, inflation at 32%. And for the general election, this democracy threat is at 6%. Okay. Which is to say that I get it why you want to talk a lot about this. But the last thing I want to make a point of, the Electoral Act of 1887, Ari, was used in 2000 in the Gore-Bush thing by the Democrats, in the next one by the Democrats. Kerry used it, Clinton used it. That's all that was going on with Trump.
And those are the facts, guys. Democrats will be the first ones to question an election if they lose. They're not even being discreet about this. They have their mainstream liberal media pundits planting the seeds of doubt in people's minds 24 hours a day. Because if Donald Trump wins, they're already talking about how it was the Supreme Court who did it for him. I mean, just look at this commentary from CNN.
My big story this weekend was the New York Times' excellent reporting on John Roberts and how he's been putting the thumb on the scale for Donald Trump all past this term. So my hot take is this. If Harris is lucky enough to win the Electoral College by only one state, John Roberts and his Supreme Court will find a way to flip that state back into Trump and give Trump the victory. It will be a redo of 2000. So people in Harris's camp need to understand they need to win by more than one state. They need to win by 2, 3, 4 states to make their margin of victory so large that the Supreme Court can't take it away from them.
There's a lot going on in that.
I feel like they know they need to win by more than one state.
Yeah, I feel
because
like,
the Supreme Court.
I feel like that might be the only way to do this thing this time around, Scott.
I mean, for the record, Bush won Florida.
Did you guys see the difference here? The guy is literally saying that the Supreme Court will flip a state for Trump. How crazy is that? And this brings me to a clip where President Joe Biden accidentally said the quiet part out loud.
Are you confident that there will be a peaceful transfer of power in January 2025?
If Trump wins, no, I'm not confident at all. I mean, if Trump loses, I'm not confident at all. He means what he says. We don't take him seriously. He means it. All the stuff about if we lose, there'll be a bloodbath. It's have to be a stolen election. Look what they're trying to do now in the local election districts where people count the votes. They're elected, they're putting people in place in states that they're going to count the votes, right? You can't love your country only when you win.
He makes a great point at the end, at least. So I gotta ask, of the two, who do you think loves this country more, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? Because at this point, guys, many never-Trumpers are switching over to his side. One of which is Gordon Sondland, another former Trump official who has now changed his mind about him. Now, unlike Kamala Harris, he explains why he's changed his point of view.
People remember you as a star impeachment witness. You got a subpoena.
That was much ado about nothing, Ari.
Well, you got it. I showed it. You said at the time it was a quid pro quo. You confirmed it there.
As I said to Peter a moment ago, I had a quid pro quo this morning. I went to Starbucks and I gave them my American Express card and they gave me a cup of coffee.
Right, but under law, a commercial transaction is different than a quid pro quo, which I think you know because you were at the center of that. And after January 6th, we saw what Ms. Matthews did. Let's listen to where you drew a line in the sand.
Completely in, even with all of the foibles that everyone has already identified, and I don't need to go through them again, until January 6th. It was a no for me after that.
A no for you after that. Why was it important for you to say no more Trump because of his January 6th conduct, and do you stand by that?
No, I don't stand by it, and I'll tell you why. I've now lived 4 years under the Biden-Harris policies, and I have to say that those policies are not only becoming an existential threat to our country's way of life, but to our allies as well.
So when you I'll let you finish, but this is so striking. You said it was a no for me after that, after January 6th.
I did.
And here we are right now.
I did.
And you're saying it's a yes for you.
It is a yes for me. It is an absolute yes for me. That is how badly the Biden-Harris team have prosecuted their job.
But the whole point you seem to be making was that January 6th and that kind of attack on democracy is bigger than any policy.
But I am seeing so many attacks on democracy that eclipse January 6th.
Now I want to talk about democracy just for a second here, guys, because Donald Trump spokesperson Stephen Chung, he commented on Jack Smith and how Democrats are operating at the moment. In a statement, Chung says the release of the falsehood-ridden, unconstitutional J6 brief immediately following Tim Walz's disastrous debate performance is another obvious attempt by the Harris-Biden regime to undermine American democracy and interfere with the election. And let's be honest, guys, Tim Walz, he did horribly in that debate. He got clobbered. So do you think that this is, again, another distraction for the American people? Now, a lot of voters are saying that Kamala Harris is a phony. She's a fake. Fake race, fake accent, you name it. That she's been built as this perfect candidate when she, in fact, has no clue as to what she's doing. I used to feel like I was just spinning my wheels, constantly working, but not getting ahead. You ever feel that feeling? You know what that feels like, right? I mean, I would look around and I used to wonder, why am I not making the progress that I know I'm capable of? And it wasn't until I found a group of people who had figured it out that I started to see results myself. The Life Pursuit Network is exactly that, a community where financial success is not only possible, but it's the freaking norm. You'll get access to the strategies and the tools that others have used to get ahead. For less than $1 a day, you can join a group that's focused on real growth. Stop struggling on your own and start achieving growth and your goals with us. Hit the link down in the description down below and join us over in the Liberty Pursuit Network today.
I don't understand how people say that Biden and Harris have not accomplished anything within the past 4 years. Yes, they have. They've allowed 15 million illegals into this country. Like, that's a lot of work, guys.
Imagine being told to vote for a candidate for president that's already in office and is guaranteeing to fix all of the problems that they told you didn't exist for the last 3.5 years. Kamala Harris says she's the one to fix the border, not Donald Trump, even though the numbers were lower under Donald Trump. But fix what problem? You told us for 3.5 years the border was closed and secured and safe. Now we're finding out that's not true.
We're now entering the twilight zone, folks. The truth is so glaring that voters are now realizing that this entire facade that Harris's campaign is trying to build up is nothing but a house of cards. What's surprising is that the storm and wind is being brought by CNN of all networks. They're now addressing how Harris has changed her position on different policies from the past. I can't believe CNN's actually admitting this. And if she's lost support of CNN, then she's most probably already lost the 2024 presidential election.
Do you think Americans seriously think that this is an important question?
Tonight, K-File investigates. In a new report you'll see first out front, the K-File team scoured Kamala Harris's tweets and statements going all the way back to 2017. And what they found was more than 50 instances of Harris slamming Trump's border wall. But now, new Harris campaign ads actually showcase that very wall.
As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border.
And on top of critical tweets, Harris also wrote in her 2019 book, quote, "There was a bigger reason to oppose the border wall. A useless wall on the southern border would be nothing more than a symbol, a monument standing in opposition to not just everything I value, but to the fundamental values upon which this country was built. How could I vote to build what would be little more than a monument designed to send the cold, hard message, keep out?" Well, K-File's Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. So, Andrew, I mean, you all have gone through, scoured an incredible amount of material. Tell me more about what you found.
Yeah, that's right. We found more than 50 of those tweets criticizing the border wall before she used that in her ad. And I want people to take a look at just a few of what she said here. She called it wasteful, useless, a waste of taxpayer money, a vanity wall project, a wasteful border wall, a stupid wall, a medieval vanity project, and an unnecessary wall. And those are really just, there were more of those, just like 10 or like 50. But there was really a lot of this was the common refrain during the campaign. You read that quote where she said it was against everything that not only she stood for, everything America stood for, and she brought this up a lot. Take a listen to just one instance of that in 2019.
It's the president's vanity project. His multi-billion-dollar vanity project called a wall is nothing more than a distraction from the fact that he actually hasn't focused on working people in America. He contrived a national crisis around his big distraction.
All right, so you go through all of that, you've got all the tweets, and yet all of a sudden in the ads, there's pictures of the wall, and then you went through to look at that wall. Yeah. Like, what is that specific wall that's in her campaign ads now? And you found something very interesting about this specific portion of the wall.
And I think what's also really remarkable about this is you heard her talking about it there, Trump's wall in his campaign during his presidency. There was really no greater symbol of Trump's presidency than the wall and the way that Democrats were attacking him over the wall and his restrictive immigration policies. So we looked in that ad, and if you look at it, that exact area of wall is in Sasabe, Arizona, and that is a portion of wall that was actually built by Donald Trump. It was built in an area where there was not previous wall. It was actually pretty controversial when they were building it at the time. So just to see that, and then there are other.
She's using his wall that he built to say, "Look at what I did."
Basically. And the other images of the wall, we weren't able to pinpoint, but there's telltale signs that was a Trump wall because there's an anti-climbing plate on top that became popularized during the Trump years.
I'm not sure many of you guys realize how big this is. CNN is actually doing some investigative reporting. I swear this has got to be a first. And they're calling Harris out for her lies. They're showing the public that she's using Trump's own policies and his wall to her advantage.
We have dreams. We can see what is possible, unburdened by what has been.
Now, you would think at this point in her campaign, at least one staffer would tell her to stop using that line. But I guess she's determined to make that a tagline of some sort. Which kind of brings me to White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, the same official who has tried to make things clear to the American public, but has failed to do so on numerous occasions. Honestly, I'm surprised she hadn't been fired yet. She was asked about this sudden switch of accents from Harris by none other than Peter Doocy. Here's her response.
Since when does the Vice President have what sounds like a Southern accent?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Do you hear the question that do you think Americans seriously think that this is an important question?
Now, I think it's an important question because it's kind of like we're not getting the real Kamala Harris. Now, I'm not sure what you guys think about this, but wouldn't it be great to have somebody who's just authentic to themselves? Because it's clear as day that she's just trying to convince people to like her. And I feel like no matter what, a lot of people are just never going to like her. Now, what makes it even more infuriating is that she's not showing us her true colors. Look at what she's doing right now to avoid media questions at all costs. Now, guys, this happened despite the fact that almost 95% of mainstream media is behind her run. She's afraid to speak to the media. Now, I'm not sure if it's a wise move given that Donald Trump and JD Vance have been out there giving interviews left and right. And it's safe to say that critics are onto her antics. That's right, guys, especially the fact that she changes her accent and her personality based on who she's talking to.
Focus on it to examine or to at least see the fakery. She was in Georgia a week ago and suddenly she had a Georgia accent. She goes from one to the other. You know, I flew yesterday, Carly. As I crossed each state, heading from New York back to Florida, my accent changed. I'm telling you, I had the Carolina accent. Minutes later, South Carolina. Then I was over Georgia. I mean, come on. I was going all over the place. I turned redneck at one point. I think I got that one in there, too. But look, this points to the fakery and how dumb Kamala Harris and the Democrats hope that the American people are.
Now, Jean-Pierre, she fired back at Peter Doocy because of this question. I want you guys to listen to what Jean-Pierre has to say about these concerns of everyday Americans.
I mean, do you hear the question that I mean, do you think Americans seriously think that this is an important question? They care, you know what they care about? They care about the economy. They care about lowering costs. They care about health care. That's what Americans care about.
So
that's what they want to hear.
This is something...
They care about, your colleague just asked me about what basically we talked about, went back and forth about democracy and freedom. That's what they care about. I'm not even going to entertain some question about the president. It's just hearing it sounds so ridiculous.
Well, but hearing it is...
The question, I'm talking about the questions is just insane.
Is that how she talks in meetings here?
I'm just... Peter, we're moving on. We're still moving on.
You gotta love how she's this good at deflecting questions. And it's priceless that they're dictating what Americans care about. Now, I understand that we do care about the economy and the cost of living, but it's not like they've done much about it in the past couple of years. To be honest, many people believe that we've been gaslit through their entire term that we're supposed to celebrate prices going down when they're not.
Now, to be clear, we have seen grocery prices come down over the past year or more, and so that is important. And a lot of that is the work that's been done from this administration.
Which is what makes Peter's question all that much more relevant, because the consensus is that Americans are being lied to. And yet we have a White House who just doesn't care if that's happening or not. And it's also showing us that Kamala Harris believes in a specific accent when it comes to black people. Now, do any of you guys believe that she really speaks like this? This concept did not work out too well for Hillary Clinton, so I think it's probably pretty safe to say that it might not do wonders for Harris's presidential campaign. And we also have to address that this is sending the wrong message to voters. The fact that she's willing to change her personality just to try to appeal to people means that she might do the same thing for her policies. She can't be trusted. Now, again, this is something that she's already done numerous times. She changed her mind about fracking. She changed her mind about the border wall. She changed her mind about decriminalizing illegal immigrants, and she's not done yet.
When you look at 2019, this is what she supported. She supported the Green New Deal, which includes a federal job guarantee.
Not only that, she co-sponsored it.
Exactly. Yep. But now the campaign says that she no longer supports a federal job guarantee. This is the campaign, not her.
Right. When it comes to energy, she endorsed, we all heard her say over and over, she's going to ban fracking, oil and gas fracking. Well, that was in 2019. Look at that. 2024. Now the campaign says she does not support a total ban on fracking.
Right. But this whole thing with federal land and then expanding federal land where you can't drill and frack, that is a subtle way of banning it, shadow banning it. When it comes to health care, she supported Medicare for all. Oh, then she said, did I say that? I didn't mean that. Campaign says she will not push Medicare for all. Why do you even ask? And when it comes to crime, she was going to be tough. A progressive prosecutor looking to end cash bail, having a real big heart for the criminal. Now she's designed a campaign as a pragmatic prosecutor, taking on predators and fraudsters. And I would just say this, there's a downside. Because there's a lot of a party who want the no cash bail, who want to be easy on it. Meanwhile, it was Donald Trump who did the criminal justice
Lawrence,
reform.
This next one, that was
This
the
is
biggest,
crazy.
that was the latest flip-flop.
It's unbelievable. When it comes down to the border wall, in 2019, she called it a medieval vanity project, and she said it was a waste of taxpayer money.
She said on The View.
Now, apparently in 2024, she vows to allocate millions of dollars to continue building the wall by supporting the border bill.
Which begs the question, is this the kind of leader that you really want in the White House? Now guys, I did a previous video where I covered this and the polling that's now coming out. Now let me tell you, it's not looking good for her. Make sure you guys watch that video right after this one. As always, appreciate you guys watching here. Thank you so much for keeping yourselves informed. Also, thanks for hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and sharing this video. I'll see y'all next time.